Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Co-op Podcast, episode 220. I'm your host, Richard Billy Jr., and today I'm joined by Mr. Gary A. Swaby. How's it going, Gary?
It's going good, man. How are you, Rich?
Doing pretty good. Trying to recover from what has already started to become a very busy schedule with all these game releases.
Oh yeah, I have a lot of catching up to do myself and a lot of games to buy.
Yes, absolutely. We're also joined by Mr. Jake James Lugo. How's it going, Mr. Lugo?
I'm doing good, guys. I'm hanging out. I've been busy playing Destiny 2, doing the review, playing a whole bunch of other games for review. It's been pretty nuts, especially after the hurricane stuff. Not like, what was it, about a week and change ago. So I'm back in business. And again, I'm ready to talk some games.
Absolutely. Sounds good. And I want to give a special shout out to Hurricane Irma because that caused me power outages multiple times this week. So very glad that that's over with. Yeah, it's all good. We will not be joined by Mr. Max Muller today or Miss Dana Abercrombie because they both have some other things going on. I believe that Max is, he had to do something else for work, and Dana is actually at another event. So we'll look forward to having them on the next show, and they can give us some updates on what they've been up to. But we do have a couple of topics to get into this week. Some of the topics are going to be rather controversial, so I wanted to give people a little bit of a disclaimer ahead of time. But it's going to be very good conversations. But before we do that, we're going to let you all know what we have been playing. So, Mr. Lugo, how about you start us off and let us know what you've been playing?
Yeah, most of the time I've just been playing a lot of Destiny 2. I also did a review for Metroid Samus Returns, which you can find on the website now. Again, both great games in their own right, doing different stuff. That's very interesting that a lot of people are going to enjoy. If you haven't already picked up Destiny 2 for your PlayStation or your Xbox right now, I really suggest you do because now's the time to dive into it. Again, there's a lot of content that's already out already. And even more stuff that's coming down the line that's just people are going to really enjoy. The same thing also is said for Samus Returns. Like, again, that's another game that on 3DS that, again, it's a true return to the roots of Metroid. And it just offers a lot of good stuff. Again, for people that are fans of the franchise, that wanted something different besides the Prime games, or just want another last hurrah for your 3DS. So I highly recommend that you guys check out my review of Metroid Samus Returns. Again, my Destiny 2 review, we originally going to try to get it up yesterday or at least earlier this week, but there's a lot to unpack in this game. There's a lot of different stuff that I wanted to comment on and make sure that I touched upon in the review. So definitely look for it tomorrow as of the recording of this co-op podcast. Again, we're recording on Sunday. Should be up in the morning around Monday, so definitely look forward to that. But that's what I've been playing. That's really what I've been spending a lot of my time with.
I got a question about Destiny 2. So how does the raid compare to some of the raids in the previous game?
This is the biggest raid that's been implemented into Destiny or Destiny 2 to date. It is not only the size as far as location, if not bigger than what was in the Dreadnought in Destiny 1, but the thing that really makes this one interesting is that it has so many intricate secrets and things you could discover, shortcuts, and all these other little details that you could get lost in. A crazy story, I was actually playing the raid with a couple different people from various websites, including some people from Kotaku, some people from IGN and GameSpot, and we were all working together to get through the raid, and some sections that some of us had played previously had went through a specific way. We discovered alternate paths and like shortcuts to go and explore different areas of the actual Leviathan, and it was cool discovering all that. Like that, those are the moments that make Destiny 2 really interesting. Those are the moments that I feel like it's going to be unique for everybody depending on what goes on and stuff. So this raid is pretty big and it's really meaty and it takes a long time, don't get me wrong. And a lot of people have commented also, I should say, that sometimes the rewards aren't always matched up to the time that you spend with it, but it's really the moments that you have when you're playing with people during the raid that really kind of make it worth it. Granted, people are going to play the raid multiple times over and over again, and sometimes it could feel a little bit like a chore, but that's always been the kind of way that you go about Destiny and the way that it's, the experience is presented in the package. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's more, again, the moments you make with your friends that you're actually playing it with.
That's good to hear. I've heard that the raid definitely takes a while to get through. I'm looking forward to it because I know the end game, that's something that a lot of people look forward to with Destiny. I know a lot of people have already finished the story mode. I did get a little bit further in the story, but I did have a power outage while I was playing. So after that, I decided, well, let me just take a break from Destiny for a while, make sure everything else is stable, then I'll go back to it. But glad to hear that the raid is good, challenging. Look forward to trying out at some point in time. But sounds good. So Gary, how about you let us know what you've been playing?
Nothing new this week, just the same old stuff as last week. Of course, Overwatch, Persona 5, and Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. Those are pretty much the only games that I've been playing. And I think I'm like kind of changing a little bit. Like my gaming habits are changing, because I'm not like before, when I used to buy every new game that comes out. And like I was thinking with Destiny, when Destiny came out, like I thought I was gonna feel the pressure to buy it and then like just give in and buy it right away, like how I used to be with Call of Duty. Like whenever a new one comes out, just buy it straight away and play with everybody while everyone's playing it. But I haven't given in to any of that pressure so far this year, and I've just been like kind of enjoying the games that I am playing and just playing at my own kind of pace. So I think I'm just at a point where my gaming habits have changed slightly. It might be part of maturing and getting older, I don't know. But yeah, like obviously it changes. If I get a review, then I have to like play what's new and everything. And I expect to review a lot of games next month, because next month is going to be a huge month. And I think I might give in to the pressure on some games that come out next month, because you have the new Assassin's Creed coming out. And of course, they took a break. They took a break for a whole year. So like I kind of want like an Assassin's Creed right now. So I'm probably going to give in when that comes out. And there's a lot of other awesome games coming out next month. So that's definitely going to put the pressure to the test, I think. So we'll see if my habits change. But there's still a lot of games that came out earlier this year that I still want to play. So I kind of don't want to rush to get the newer games. But yeah, we'll wait and see what happens.
Absolutely. And I'll just add very quickly that I understand what you're saying, Gary, when it's very hard to try and pick up every game. But, you know, as far as Destiny 2 is concerned, I believe if I ever have an opportunity to talk to Activision, I would tell them that, you know, they need to make sure that they put some Overwatch stuff in Destiny 2, because then that will make you purchase it almost immediately. So I think
it would be a great idea. It would be a great idea for them to do some cross promotion with Overwatch, I think, especially since Destiny's coming out on the BlizzardNet app on PC. So it makes sense.
That's true. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But that's good. We look forward to all the games coming up next month. It's going to be very busy, but looking forward to it. So as for what I have been playing, as I've already mentioned, I did play some more of the Destiny 2 campaign. I still think the game is great up until this point. Story is 20 times better than it was with the first game. The leveling up is I don't really have any issues with the grinding, nothing as of yet. So far I have to give Activision and Bungie a thumbs up. They've made a fantastic game so far. I'm looking forward to getting to actually finishing the game and, you know, trying out the raid. So maybe I'll get to do that at some point. No time soon, but eventually we'll look into that. I've also been playing NBA 2K18. And, you know, I wanted to play this game because, you know, I'm a huge NBA 2K fan. I was hoping going into this game, you know, it was going to be some different stuff. And yeah, there is some different stuff this year. You know, they have their My Career mode, which I dived into very briefly because they had a Prelude demo that came out, I think it was about maybe 2 weeks ago, that you was able to try out, and you pretty much create your player, and, you know, now you can import that into when you actually buy the full game. So far, My Career is I mean, it's pretty good so far. You know, pretty much you're undrafted a basketball player, and you actually get signed to whatever team you select as your favorite team. And from there, pretty much is you go through the motions, you get to see how it is to be on the team, you know, of course, as the rookie, you do experience some hazing, as you would expect in any fraternity, so on and so forth. But yeah, you get to go through the neighborhood, you know, you get a haircut, buy sneakers, play in different pickup games, and eventually you get to play an NBA game. Now, I'm not too far into my career because I wanted to just get a feel for it, but it's a good game so far. I'll definitely have more to say on it, I think, by next week because I'll have more time with it. One thing I will say, though, I did also play in that particular game the My GM mode. And what they did this year with that mode is that they pretty much have you pretty much start out as a player that was injured back in the conference finals about 6 years ago, and then it fast forwards to today where, well, it was a career-ending injury, but it fast forwards to today where now you're running an organization. And pretty much as the GM, you know, you go through a lot of stuff, a lot of ridiculous stuff, like the owner of the team having financial issues, and then you got to worry about dealing with the media because the media has a lot of judgments. They hear a lot of rumors, so they throw you into the cycle with all this other type of stuff. And you have a very hands-on approach with everything in terms of having conversations with players that whether or not they ask you, are they going to get traded, you can tell them no, but then the trade could still happen and it makes you look bad. So they have a lot of interesting things going on in that mode so far. I'm very curious to see if any of that translates over to the WWE 2K game because it is the same publisher, not the same developer, but they do work hand in hand on a couple of different things. So we'll see how that goes. But so far, I can say I'm enjoying NBA 2K18. It's a great game. You know, if you're a basketball fan, you should pick it up, but you probably already picked it up. As for NBA Live 18, nah, son, that's a thumbs down. Stick to NBA 2K18 for now. That's what I would say, but that's just my opinion. And lastly, I did get a brief period of time to play with Project Cars 2. I know that when I believe, Mr. Lugo and Gary, both of you guys went to a Bandai Namco appointment. And I believe that the guy at that appointment, the representative, was talking trash about Forza and Gran Turismo, saying that, you know, Project Cars 2 is way better.
Yeah, he was talking a lot of smack at one point, and it was all in fun and games and stuff, but they were obviously very passionate about how they felt, you know, with the way they presented the racing and just the driving and a lot of the little details in Project Cars 2.
Okay, see, so what I played so far, the game is okay. I haven't really dived deep into the career mode quite yet because I just got the game Friday night, late Friday night. So I didn't have a lot of time to really play it just yet. That we'll have a review on it in the future, hopefully sometime this week before the launch. But again, I was sent the game very late, so I don't know how soon I'll have that review done. But what I could say is so far, based on playing this, based on playing Forza as well, the game is okay. I'm not really yet sold on it being better than these other games quite yet. But again, I haven't spent a lot of time with it. But I can say it looks great. It looks fantastic. The driving the cars, yes, you have a lot of control of the vehicles, and you know, very sensitive with the turns. You know, if you don't really make a turn properly, yes, you're not going to get it, and you're going to struggle in the races. But so far, it's a good game. I just don't know if I'm going to say it's better than the other games quite yet. But again, I'll have more to say on that soon because I do need to spend more time with it. But you had a question, Gary?
Rich.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know, like, me and you have played The Crew 2, which I believe is coming out soon as well. And I know they're kind of different in terms of the type of racing game they are, but I know that Project Cars 2 is probably, you know, more superior in terms of the technology and everything, but is it as fun as The Crew 2 to play?
That is a very good question. You know what? Honestly, it's not. Because with The Crew 2, at least you can switch between different vehicles you're using. At one point, you could be using a boat, then you could switch to a car, then you could switch to an airplane. So I think in those regards, there's no comparison at all. I think The Crew is more like it is a racing game, but I guess it's kind of an adventure. I know they have like a story mode in there too, but when I played it at PAX, I didn't get to play any of the single player story stuff. It was just the races. But my honest opinion, yeah, Project Cars 2 may be a good game based on what I played so far, but this is nothing like The Crew 2. The Crew 2 is really fun, really great experience, and then the seamless switching between different things makes it even more interesting also. But yeah, I think The Crew 2 is fantastic. Looking forward to seeing more from that game because it's not coming out until March next year. But Project Cars 2, I do need to spend some more time with it. I don't want the fans of Project Cars 2 to be angry because I said it's good, but it doesn't feel like it's that great. So I need to spend more time with it. But I will say more on it later. I would say later this week, definitely by the next show, I'll have more to say on Project Cars. But I understand some people have concerns. Well, is this a game that I should pick up? I would say right now, I can't really tell you for sure yet. You know, obviously, if you enjoyed the first Project Cars really, really much, like a lot, then maybe you do want to pick up the sequel. But I haven't really seen enough yet to say this is a must-own game. But we'll revisit this conversation again very soon. I'll say that much. But yes, that's good question, Gary, because I enjoyed The Crew 2 a hell of a lot more than I enjoyed than I'm enjoying Project Cars 2 right now. But it's my opinion. All right, so that pretty much concludes what we have been playing for this week. So we're going to go ahead and jump into a couple of topics. Some of these topics, as I've already said, very, very interesting things that impact the industry. So we definitely want to address them because I'm pretty sure we all have some opinions on the matter. The first topic this week is about Lawbreakers, Gary's favorite game at E3 2017. You know, they gave him a T-shirt, all types of swag when we went to the appointment. You know, the lady also said, hey, you know, she tried to give him her number too. So yeah, I think they really was impressed with you, Gary. But
well, I must have missed that.
Oh yeah, I know. I saw everything, man. I see everything. But on to what's going on with Lawbreakers. Obviously, Cliff Bleszinkski came out this week and made a couple of statements in regards to the fact that the game has not been doing well on PC. They did say it's doing well on PS4. I haven't seen any data released or any information to support that theory at all. But what he did say is that he was going to, he maybe needs to take a step back and be less of a dick. His words, not mine, just to draw people into the game. Because I do know that he is a little bit of a cocky nature to himself in terms of with the game also. I do have something to say about Lawbreakers, but I just wanted to get you guys' opinions first and foremost on what he said about the game and whether or not you're surprised of what's happening with the game, and do you think that he's going to be able to get the game back on track and successful for everyone else? So,
you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say, like, Cliffy B, he's a cool guy and everything. He's done amazing work in the industry. Of course, you know, he was a big part of Gears of War and everything. But he does come across as a really arrogant person. And like I said on, you know, an earlier podcast before, Lawbreakers felt like it was more about Cliffy B than the game itself. And that, I think that was a big part of the problem here. I remember at E3 when we was lining up to play Lawbreakers, Cliffy B actually, like, he came up on the, he came to the booth and, like, he was right in front of where I was lining up for the PC version. He was like taking pictures and, you know, all that stuff. And he just came across as like a really kind of arrogant and, you know, well, I wouldn't say people pleasing person, but like, you know, he was feeling himself a lot, basically. Like, you know, like he likes the attention and everything. So I think that's a lot of the problem here. And it's good that he's realizing that as well, which, you know, is clear in his statements and everything. And I think he just needs to kind of tone it down a little bit and focus on the game, because there's also a statement in this article that we found where he says it was a mistake not including team deathmatch in the game as well. So like, how are you, like, I don't understand how you could miss like a major mode like that in the launch of your game. Like that should have been there day one. And, you know, this shouldn't be something that you're bringing up now. Like it's something that should have been in the game. You're competing with Overwatch and a lot of other like top FPS games on the market right now. And, you know, of course, this game was released in, did it come out August or July? I can't remember.
Yeah, August. August.
Yeah.
Yeah, August.
August. Yeah, so you got Overwatch, you've got another Quake coming, and of course, like August is right before September, so Destiny, you know, you're competing with a lot of top multiplayer shooters. So like, yeah, I think he did kind of kill the mood of Lawbreakers by, you know, being so arrogant and putting himself out there more than the actual game itself. Because there was like a long period where I didn't even really fully understand what Lawbreakers was. Like I watched videos and stuff, of course, but it felt like the attention was more on Cliffy B making the game than the actual game itself. And it felt like that the entire time. So yeah, I'm glad that he's realized that now, and hopefully he's learned something from it. I don't remember it being like this when Gears of War came out, so I'm not sure how this came to be a problem with this game. But yeah, I'm just glad that he understands where the game went wrong, because the sales have been abysmal on PC. Of course, we don't know the numbers for PS4, but yeah, it's been embarrassing on the PC, I gotta say.
Hey, this stuff happens. I do have some things to say. First and foremost, Mr. Lugo, do you have any thoughts on this particular topic?
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts on it. And I mean, it's going to sound a little bit shitty, so I do apologize in advance. But I will say, coming out and saying that you got to be less of a dick to draw in players to check out your game, that should be a non-talking point. That should go without say, just in general. I think that sometimes not just developers or publishers or people that get associated, or at least their names get associated with a particular game and it's put out in the spotlight, especially when they have a reputation and stuff, that should be done without being said. I don't think that should come to a point where it should become a problem that needs to be addressed, because you shouldn't be a dick to anybody. You shouldn't be a dick to anybody in general, whether it's on social media or in person. And I'm kind of like Gary in the sense where for a long time, I really didn't understand. It's not like I didn't know about Lawbreakers, but I didn't understand what the game was or what it was trying to do in an environment like what he mentioned, when you have so many multiplayer online shooters or shooters that are multiplayer that have a lot of attention on them, that really need a lot of devotion of time put into them to really get into the meat and really get into the community and the craziness of like what those games could become, like Destiny 2, for example, since that's the most recent one to come out. I don't think that you're going to want to have a lot of stuff, that at least what he mentioned, between the team deathmatch stuff and even his own, you know, celebrity status, if you want to call it that, really become a hindrance as far as like getting people excited about the game. Because I checked out of Lawbreakers a long time ago. I remember us going to events to not only E3, but also to like PAX and stuff, and even PSX, I believe, where Lawbreakers was there. And I was like, I didn't care about going to go see the game. Not because I didn't dislike it, or at least not because I disliked the game in any fashion, but I really didn't understand like what is it exactly this game was trying to do? Who was it trying to really appeal to? What was it doing that was different than most of the other games that were already popular at the time? As well as also there was no big draw for me. You know, at least, you know, as an individual, as a gamer, or not even as someone that's like a games media person, there was nothing there for me. And all this stuff, and again, the fact that that's a news story just turns me off a little bit more, and does, again, it already takes my care level that's already so low and just, again, makes it pretty much flatline. Because why at that point, you know, if you hear, like, again, someone that's behind the development of a game is acting like a jerk or is acting like a dick for whatever reason, why at that point would you want to go check out their game? If you're a person that knows nothing about Lawbreakers, knows nothing else about the industry, and is not really checked in or tuned into what's going on, I mean, what's the problem? I mean, the thing is like, why even bother with that? Or why make that into an issue? I mean, I wasn't there, or was it when Gary saw, you know, stuff that was going on with Lawbreakers, or at least with Cliff Bleszinkski, because I met him, at least, you know, beforehand. He doesn't seem like a bad guy. But again, this doesn't make me any more excited about Lawbreakers. This doesn't entice me to go check out the game, especially now at this point in time when we have games like Destiny 2, when we have games like Overwatch that are already giving so much content, and I already have so much time invested into them. Do I want to take on another game that's going to at least demand that quality amount of time that's very similar to those two?
Very good points all around. But Gary, you was about to make another statement?
Oh no, not really. Like, JJ just kind of summarized everything, that I wanted to say. So you go ahead.
Oh yeah. So the only thing that I was going to say about the situation is to go back to when we was actually at E3 and we saw Lawbreakers. Yeah, the whole thing about Cliffy B being arrogant. Yeah, we saw that in full display. I do recall a situation where I was waiting in line to start up, saw Cliffy B, and then there was like a lot of independent sites that were also there. There was some independent journalists went up to him asking him for an interview, and Cliffy B straight up said, "No, I only interviewed with big sites." So I
wait, hold up, back up for a second. That's exactly what he said, or like verbatim, or like
Oh yeah. Well, he actually referenced the site. I think it was GameSpot. He said GameSpot or another site.
Now, if that was the case, again, I'm going on your word, okay? And
Yeah.
I have personally, for me, I have strong feelings about stuff like that. But it's crazy now that we're in a day and age, especially within our industry, where people will blow up over like the littlest things, like a game being delayed or something not being included in a game, or a certain feature that or whatever else that developer or a developer got something wrong, and people will blow up about that, but nobody would have a problem with that. Now, I understand people's time is very precious. There's a lot going on, especially during E3, because it's wartime for everybody at E3. Everybody's on the move. Everybody has stuff to do. But to me, that's a terrible attitude at that point. And that should have been addressed with him a long time ago. Maybe he shouldn't be like that. And maybe more people like smaller sites would actually go cover his game. And actually everybody like ourselves would know what his game is like if there was a little bit more humbleness there. Because, again, I'm only going on what you said because I haven't seen other stuff put around like that. But that's a really shitty attitude. And nobody should have that. Nobody should have to go through that, because I've been in that position where I've been told something like that or have been given that type of energy. And it's not cool. Not just because I'm a games media person, but just as a human being in general. But I digress.
No, that's a very good point. The thing is, it just, the delivery of how he was talking and he said it was just that, he would make time for those other sites, not so much the person that was interested in the interview. So maybe he didn't quite say, no, I'm not going to do it because I want to go with GameSpot, but he did mention about some other publications that he would definitely.
I mean, it's one thing to say like, hey, I got to go do something with GameSpot or whatever else, or other big website. That's one thing. But like at that point, if you have a game come out, or at least, you got a big AAA game or whatever, you want everybody talking about your game. Like if I was in his position, what would it have cost to give the guy like 5 minutes or 10 minutes? Like not even. Like that.
Absolutely.
Granted, again, it's E3. The point is you want everybody having eyes on your game. I don't think at that point you need to be picky and choosy. Even people, let me put it this way. Even people like when I went to Washington to go check out Bungie and to go play Destiny 2 and stuff, before even all that, before any of that stuff was going on, you saw people at Bungie like Luke Smith and other people that were part of that whole team wanting people to come play Destiny 2. They were talking to everybody. And granted, that's Bungie. Everybody knows who Bungie is because of their pedigree and their backlog of stuff that they've done. But that's a difference in attitude there. Again, they have a big game coming out. They want everybody checking out their game. They want a good vibe around their game. I don't think you want to be like that, or you want to be like Randy Pitchford or a lot of other people that just have this terrible attitude like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Again, independent, the publisher, I would expect them to want everybody to cover the game. So I don't know what's going on with that. What I will say, though, in terms of the game itself, I know when I got a chance to play it, I wasn't really impressed with the game because, as I've said on other shows, it feels like a lot of the mechanics with the whole gravity defying, jumping up in the air, running off the wall, all that stuff I've already seen in games like Call of Duty, Titanfall, etc. So I didn't feel that there was really anything that was new brought to the table. To know that they launched the game and they didn't have the team deathmatch, that also was a bad decision. But that also lets me know this has been an issue so far this generation. There's quite a bit of games that have released with little to no content, and then you have updates later where people are adding stuff in there later. And I don't like that either, because if someone pays full price for a game, then they should be getting their money's worth. Now, in this case, Lawbreakers is not a full price game, but still, a team deathmatch, I think that should have definitely been in there. That's a bad mistake to not have that in there. I also know that he mentioned in that interview, they made that decision to release close to Destiny 2. So they kind of think that was also a bad decision. Destiny 2 was a month later, so they still got out before Destiny 2 was a huge thing. But I don't know. Do I think that he could save the game? I don't think he's going to be able to save it on PC. I mean, obviously there are games that have released and they were saved, but the whole thing is that there are too many other titles coming out over the next couple of weeks and months that people are going to want to play more. Now, in terms of the multiplayer stuff, like we already mentioned, Destiny 2 is out on consoles. It'll be out on PC in October. Then you have Call of Duty coming up right after that. And then you have Battlefront coming up right after that. So I don't think that they're going to get this game to a point where maybe it will do a little bit better. Maybe a little bit better than what it was on launch. But it definitely is not something that's going to be saved, I think, in the long run. It's good that I guess he came out and acknowledged that I guess that he went about things the wrong way. That's fine if you want to acknowledge that. But hopefully, my goal was that he learned something from this experience as well as the team. And one last thing I will add is I also didn't like the fact how when they announced this game, initially, it was coming to everything, Xbox, PlayStation 4, and then PC. And then, you know, as they got closer to ramping up, they said, well, we're not going to be able to release the Xbox One version because, you know, we need to focus on making sure that people are getting paid on the team. I totally understand that, but I don't understand why Xbox One version was even announced in the very beginning. You should have just said, just don't announce what it's coming to quite yet. Just say it's coming in the future. And we'll have more information when we have more details. But they decided to say it is coming to Xbox, and then went back and said, well, now I don't know if it's coming to Xbox. So I don't know if that would have made a difference for them. Releasing that game, if it would have done well on Xbox, I think it could have done better on Xbox because there are no games really on Xbox at the moment. No real, you know, major games, at least not for a couple of weeks. You know, you got Cuphead coming out, you have Forza coming out, but there isn't really anything right now that anybody's playing on Xbox unless they're playing a third-party game that is also on PS4 or PC. So I don't know. I just think it's unfortunate what happened with Lawbreakers. But you know what? I have to give Cliffy B credit for breaking his own law and talking about how arrogant he was to try and repair the overall image of the actual game now. But I think it's too late. But with that said, Gary, are you now planning on supporting Cliffy B in the good fight and picking up the game on PC, or is this a hell no?
It's a hell no from me, but you know, I do want to see him do good. I want to see him do better. And I believe that this has humbled him, and hopefully, you know, whenever he works on another game, he'll approach it, you know, in a different way that'll be more beneficial to him. And just to bounce off of what you were saying, it was a big oversight not to release it on the Xbox because, you know, you're dealing with a platform that's known for shooters. Like the Xbox community loves shooters, you know, online shooters and stuff. So they probably would have, you know, adopted it, and it would have boosted up the numbers of the game significantly if they would have, you know, released it. And that, along with not putting in the team deathmatch mode at launch, you know, I think those are two big oversights. And some people will say that, you know, Overwatch only very recently added a team deathmatch mode. But the difference is that Overwatch was so innovative in its approach to, you know, the gameplay that they were able to release without, you know, having deathmatch modes, because the gameplay doesn't just hinge itself upon getting kills. You know, it's a lot deeper than that. It's about organizing with your team and everything. When I played Lawbreakers, it was more kill focused. So you can't leave out, you know, a match like team deathmatch and expect it to be okay. So yeah, those were two big mistakes that Cliffy B made, and hopefully this has humbled him. I think it has humbled him, and that's why he's able to, you know, admit that he was a dick, and, you know, he's saving face now. So I think he's learned a lot, and hopefully that will better him for the future.
Yeah, very good points. I hope it does better him for the future. But as for Lawbreakers, I don't think that's. I could be wrong. There could be a lot of people that start playing the game all of a sudden, maybe a month or maybe a couple of weeks from now, and then it picks up again. But I think it's too many other games coming out. Not necessarily, and again, I know these other games are not all shooters, but there's too many games coming out that are going to demand people's attention, and they may not want to really jump into Lawbreakers. When I saw it, as I already said, I wasn't really that impressed with the game based on what I played. But for those that are impressed, definitely play the game and support it. But do I think it's going to get better? Yeah, they may have better plans to add other things to the game that should have been in there. But will that be enough to get people back into it? I have no idea. And I don't think it will be, because there's going to be too many other games out there. But again, just my opinion. So any final thoughts on this topic before we move on to the next?
Oh, no, I want to go in on this next topic.
All right. So, yes, be prepared, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very serious discussion, because I'm pretty sure people have been asking what we felt about the situation. So we need to talk a little bit about this PewDiePie situation. I'm going to let you start off, JJ, because, again, you said you have a lot to say, and I'm pretty sure Gary and I will have something to say afterwards.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't think we should dwell too long on it, because a lot of what's already been said is pretty much the same thing from multiple different places, because it's kind of freaking obvious. It's common sense and a lot of stuff. But I have a lot of strong feelings about what's been going on with PewDiePie and him saying the N-word on stream. And the reason why we bring this up, it's not necessarily gaming specific news, but it is related to gaming culture, and it is important because I think not only it said something not just about him, which should be condemned. He was a real idiot for coming out and just blatantly, just randomly, just blurting that out in a moment of I guess you could call it a little bit of a Freudian slip, or just a moment of frustration during the game, because he was playing PUBG. If you're not really caught up, if you haven't been on the internet looking at this stuff lately over the last week or so, basically PewDiePie came out and said the N-word when he was playing Players Unknown Battlegrounds, and he just dropped it like that, just a hard R, just not even considerate to what was going on. He just dropped it like that, and it's a really messed up thing, because it just shows that because he did it so loosely and he realized what he said, and he kind of tried to backtrack a little bit. The problem is, though, is that it sounds like he says this as a common thing, off camera or whatever else, just uses that loosely. And the reason why I think it's a little bit more important than what people are making it out to be, just besides him, is because it comes to show you now these days, over this year or the last few years and such, within our culture of gaming, or the gaming community, the gaming industry, is that there's a large section of people that think that type of rhetoric is okay to be common with. That it's okay that, even though they feel like they don't mean it in the way that they're being racist towards black people or African Americans or people of color, whatever else, that it's okay to just be like that and to be excused with it. And let alone someone like PewDiePie in his position that has over 50-something million subscribers on his channel, a lot of eyes on his channel, a lot of young eyes, people that are very, very young in some regard, that they think that it's okay to be like that it's okay to loosely throw around words like that, not even though they understand the meaning of it, but not understand the true meaning and why it's so bad to be like that. Because let's be real for a second. Number one, from day one, when a lot of this stuff that was going on with him, with the whole Nazi imagery thing, when he was doing that with some of his playthroughs and some of his videos and such, I was never down with that. I was one of the very few people that was very outspoken to be like, yo, this is not cool whatsoever. It doesn't matter the context. It doesn't matter the reasoning behind it. There's 1,000,001 different ways that you could go about making a point about something without having to go through go to such an extreme, whether it's putting out jokes or putting out rhetoric or statements that are anti-Semitic, using imagery that's not related to Nazis or white supremacy and stuff. Because not only does it empower some of those people that feel that way, because you're on such a big platform, or you are such a big platform, and you have a responsibility to use it better and more responsible while you're actually putting yourself out there, because there's so many eyes on you. But it's kind of messed up that sometimes it takes multiple times for these people or someone like PewDiePie to really understand that. And I feel like a lot of people, if not the entire internet and the entire community or gaming scene, has really given him more chances than he really deserves, because it's amazing to me how even now, like, here's a perfect example, right? After all this went down earlier this week, or last week, I should say, he almost did it again on a stream. Like, he caught himself, but it was like, yo, son, like, You shouldn't even joke about that or even make light about that. You should, at that point, already as the second time that you're caught in the spotlight and you were so gung-ho and the internet was so behind you about how all the media was coming after you about something involving Nazi imagery and whatever else that was related with your videos that got you the loss of your Disney/Polaris partnership and YouTube acting the way they are with you. You should be on your P's and Q's to not let something like that happen again. Shouldn't have happened the second time, but you shouldn't even be getting to that point where you're about to slip up for a third. And it makes me on the outside looking in because, again, I'm not a PewDiePie fan. I don't watch his videos on the regular. I understand people's reasoning saying that it's that type of humor and stuff, but I don't think that's an excuse. I hear more crappy excuses for stuff like this amongst a lot of big gaming personalities, especially PewDiePie, and less action and less effort being done to prevent stuff like that, or at least less effort from him to kind of do things a little bit better with his notoriety, with his fame, with his following and stuff. And I'm seeing a whole bunch of people arguing, a whole bunch of people come to their defenses, or a whole bunch of people try to make a statement or try to throw their name or their 2 cents into the hat, not only just for the notoriety and for the eyes on it because it's his name, you know, writing on his name and stuff, but nobody's actually really doing anything about it. Nobody's really making an effort to make things like that better, let alone him. Because it's one thing to apologize and have a sincere apology. It's another thing to actually really show your actions making an effort to do something that betters yourself and make sure that that type of stuff doesn't happen again. Because clearly people are offended. I'm not even African-American and I'm offended. It's like, yo, you can't be doing something like that because it makes other people think it's okay. Clearly. And the way you went about it just shows that it's like you're okay being like that or saying that amongst your own circles or whatever. You could do what you want amongst your own circles, but when I feel like when you got 50 million eyes plus or 50 million plus eyes that are on you and you're on a stream, you should take greater care to do better, to not have something like that happen, let alone use your fame and notoriety and your following a little bit more responsibly. I mean, again, this has been an argument and it's been a thing that's lingered over the last 3 or 4 years, ever since YouTubers started getting very, very big. Some of them just are very careless with their attitudes and very crappy with their attitudes and very careless with how they handle their following. They're not responsible like that. They think that just because they have all that following that they could have a sense, not a sense of entitlement, but a sense of, you know, I guess getting a pass on a lot of the stuff that they do. That's the best way you could put it. And a lot of people seem, just because they're big PewDiePie fans, because they feel like the context matters and stuff, are giving him a pass again on this. And I feel like it's one too many. I was never down with any of the stuff that happened before. I'm not down with this now. I don't think anybody should be, you know, be like, okay, like it's fine. He apologized. It was sincere and just move on from there. There needs to be a conversation that it's had at some point. And I feel like we're starting to have that a little bit. But, you know, granted, he does something this stupid again, and I think a lot of people are going to be done with him. They're going to feel like me at that point, which they should have been a long time ago. But I digress. That's just me and how I feel about the matter. I don't think it was right. I don't think it was cool. And I don't think it's really – it says something a lot about where we are right now in the state of, like, advancing not only just as a gaming community, but as just a society of people that are, again, want our pastime and want our hobby to be looked at in such a light to others that are outside of it. Things like this just knock us down 100 steps. But I digress. That's just my thoughts. What do you guys think on this matter?
Gary, you want to go first?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have too much to say about PewDiePie. I'm not a fan of his at all. And you know, we already knew he was ignorant with the whole Nazi thing that happened. You know, the you know, that controversy he had before. I believe it was earlier this year. With this issue, like Mark pointed out in the chat, and you know, I've heard this before. It has kind of become like a somewhat of a ritual for, you know, people to be in a lobby in battlegrounds and just, you know, chant the N-word, you know, like that's really what people do, to the point that it's become a trend within people to do it. And while I believe that, you know, a lot of this is, you know, people who are racist, there are also people who are so far removed from reality that they don't understand how that word affects people, you know, which is unfortunate. So in the case of PewDiePie, I think it's important that, you know, people, the same people who are, you know, online calling for his neck, calling for his beheading and everything, I think people should just take a stand against him and, you know, stop supporting him, stop watching him, unsubscribe from him. And that's the only way, you know, you can really show the consequences of using the word. Like, you know, you have to make stuff like this an example because he has such a huge following. So when people see, you know, how much this is going to affect him, maybe they'll understand that, you know, it's not a word that should be said at that point, even though they should already know. But, you know, until there's an example for them to see, you know, some people are just not, they're just going to be too ignorant to, you know, to understand. So, yeah, that's my stance on it. I think,
you know something, I want to add on to something that Gary said, right? Or at least, you know, that what Gary's been saying and stuff. This really affects a lot of like how people view, again, YouTube as a platform, especially in the gaming space, since PewDiePie is really, he does Let's Plays and stuff. It makes it that much more harder and a lot more difficult for people that are on YouTube that don't do stuff like that, that are trying to make it into something, not just as a living, but as, you know, as a means to kind of like, you know, really increase their creative, like, you know, their endeavors and stuff. It makes it that much more difficult because this not only scares the advertisers and people that are, again, the whole big deal with the whole YouTube adpocalypse stuff that happened, especially in the wake of what happened last time with PewDiePie and such. A lot of people were really kind of calling out the Wall Street Journal for stuff like this, or at least the outlets that were reporting on it, because they felt like it was an us versus them type of deal. And I was never down with something like that. And I saw that for a long time now. Again, it seems like the culture of like online gaming and YouTube and stuff like that really is kind of like this anti-establishment, this anti website or anti-journalism, whatever else, in the wake of everything else that's been happening around in society, whether it's election, political stuff, or stuff going on line with gaming and such. It's like everything just gets muddied up in the mix. And I feel like even with stuff as this bad, there's always an excuse to be like, oh, this is not that much of a big deal. People make it too much of a big deal. And I feel like, no, this is a case already multiple times where it is a big freaking deal because nobody wants to be associated with something like that. If I was a company, and I'm pretty sure a lot of companies have already done this, I would stay the hell away from PewDiePie because he becomes a liability. I know that Greg Miller and a couple other people have talked about this already, and they use the same phrasing, the same thoughts and same ideas. It's like he's become more of a problem than anything else. You know, granted, he has a huge following and stuff, but why would a company, or why would any gaming company want to be associated with that when again, it's such a bad thing that has such a visceral reaction from people? Look at the guys from Firewatch, that developer that threatened to DMCA his videos, his playthrough of Firewatch. And I don't blame him. Not only does it open up conversations about the use of that, which I feel like is another topic we should do in the co-op another time, because that's a thing that's coming very soon. And a lot of people are not going to like how that's going to end up. But it starts opening that up because, again, when, you know, it's a very rocky platform, YouTube. It's a very rocky situation, in a position that nobody really wants to address. Everybody wants to ignore right now because people like their freedom. People like the ability of being in the Wild West, where pretty much almost anything is allowed. And really, it's the court of public opinion that dictates a lot of stuff. But I feel like eventually with stuff like this, especially if they happen more frequently with people like PewDiePie and other YouTubers or personalities or e-celebrities that have such a huge following, things like that are going to change, and everybody's going to look like shit because of it. And it's going to suck because all that's going to do is the people that are on the outside looking in, that are part of, or at least fans of all these different individuals that are really causing all this bullshit and stuff, is going to blame it on the people that are just reporting it, or blame it on the people that are calling them out for saying like, hey, listen, this is like not cool whatsoever. Again, it's ignoring the real problems here. Nobody wants to address it. But again, I'm going too much on it and I'm kind of repeating myself. So, but either way, Rich, you got thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think that the both of you have already said a lot of details on it in terms of how you view the situation. I feel bad for those that are fans of PewDiePie because, you know, the people that are still fans, even after all of this, it's like, I really don't understand. But yeah, it definitely, what he said was wrong. It definitely gives people the impression that it's okay to say this word. Now, one thing I will say is I know on Xbox Live, not really just in PUBG, but on Xbox Live in the past, I've played many games where a lot of people were saying that word back and forth. And I was like, this is ridiculous. This is one of the main reasons why I didn't really like playing online in the first place with Xbox, and when I had the party chat functions that I had on my 360. So the problem is still persists today. I feel like it's going to continue to be an issue even after, you know, all that happened with him. I think he deserved what happened with him. You know, I'm glad that the Firewatch developers took action. But I feel like this is an issue that is going to continue in terms of the use of that particular word and just the use of anything that could be some form of racism. So it's a very unfortunate situation. But with everything that happened, with how it happened, I'm glad that that people actually took action. I'm glad that this developer took action against him, because that needed to happen. But it is bad, you know. And again, you go to the point of what you guys said, how it impacts the people who do this stuff for a living, or maybe, you know, YouTube is their platform. It impacts them negatively. But, you know, anyone who looks upon gamers and they consider people like PewDiePie and a lot of other people on the web as gamers also, that do have platforms similar on YouTube, well, it may make them also question this, what, you know, if these people do anything out of context. So it shines a light on a lot of issues. But I'm not happy that any of this happened in the first place. But, you know, again, I'm not a PewDiePie fan, so. But yeah, they already knew that something was wrong with this guy the minute he did the Nazi thing. That was just horrible. So to know that stuff is still continuing is very discouraging. But I don't really try to really pay attention onto that stuff, because this is stuff that I think there's going to be a lot of these types of incidents are going to continue to happen. I did see the video where he did try to stop himself, almost said it again, and then he pointed out in the same video, almost said the word again. There's not really any excuse for it. So I don't know. It's a bad situation. I'm glad that, again, people took action. And as you said, Gary, people who are fans that were offended, they just need to stop supporting this guy altogether. Just don't subscribe to his videos. Don't watch any of his videos. There are plenty of other people you can watch their content if you want to. But yeah, if you really want to make a message to him, stop supporting him. And then the message will be loud and clear to him that, oh, well, I shouldn't do this because then I'll lose fans if I do it. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and yeah, you both made great points, and JJ highlighted something you know, very worrying as well that's happening. And you know, when someone as big as PewDiePie, I believe at one point he was like the biggest channel or something like that. So when something like this happens with okay, he still is. When something like this happens with him specifically, you know, advertisers aren't going to be like, you know, oh, let's just pull all our ads from PewDiePie and stuff like that. They're going to look at YouTube specifically, and we're already in a crisis where, you know, channels are getting less money from, you know, they're making less money now from all the views they accumulate and everything like that. So this just makes the problem worse. It gives the advertisers and sponsors another, you know, further reason to withdraw their ads from, you know, channels on YouTube and everything like that. So this hurts everyone, you know, when stuff like this happens. So you do have to kind of speak with your, you know, your subscriptions and your views. Like, just stop supporting this guy. You know, clearly he doesn't care, you know, what he does, because this is like strike 3 or something now, you know. So people should just not support him anymore. And I think it's for the better of YouTube and what YouTube is, and, you know, the opportunities that YouTube has provided for people and content creators. Like, if you want to see this thing continue to be able to fund people's creative works, then, you know, you should take a stand against stuff like this. So yeah, and advertisers as well, you know, they do have some of the blame, because they shouldn't target everybody because of what one person does. You know, they should understand that, you know, it's a isolated incident. It's just this guy, you know, just pull your ads from this guy and support everybody else.
Yeah, those are good points. That is something that'll be if they will actually take the time to evaluate others and what the content they put out there. I don't really think that they've done a good job of that quite yet.
No, you want to know why? Because with someone like PewDiePie, again, for a long time, that was put at the forefront as a representative, or at least an example of like what YouTube is and what YouTube can be. That's what they're judging the platform on. They're not going to pay attention to someone that has only a couple thousand, if not 100,000 subscribers, when they can get an idea of it from the guy that has 53 million subscribers, if not more. That's the thing. And if that's the representation that YouTube, for a while anyway, put at the forefront of their platform like that, at least, you know, back then anyway, then obviously you can't really put a lot of blame on the advertisers for not wanting to be associated with that. Now, again, at the same time, there's a lot of other issues that get put on top of it. Again, with the way that, you know, it's not just stuff like that, like hate speech and stuff, but even like political affiliations and other things that get associated and other things that companies don't want to be a part of because it impacts their brand or they don't want to have their brand associated with it. It muddies up the water. That also included is the copyright stuff, like I mentioned before, the DMCA stuff, which again, we really should talk about on another co-op episode, or at least do a separate podcast on it at one point, because I feel like that's a big topic that will change, or at least a big thing that will change very, very soon at some point. Because eventually somebody's going to tip that domino and a whole bunch of stuff is going to happen. And we're going to see either a very different YouTube or a very different landscape in our industry when it comes to the content creator, when it comes to the common community person that's not part of the games media, that's not part of the traditional media or part of the quote unquote establishment, the big companies and stuff like that. But regardless, though, it is what it is. I think it was very stupid what he did. I think we all should condemn it for what it is. A lot of people should, and leave it at that.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Yeah. And we definitely will address this other topic on another show. Absolutely, because I do have some things to say on that also. But any other thoughts before we move on to the next topic?
That's all from me.
Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to talk to, I guess, a little bit more positive news. You know, yeah, some more positive news. We received the August MPD's information a couple of days ago. First and foremost, I will go ahead and give Nintendo a round of applause because the Nintendo Switch was the top-selling console in August. So no surprises there. Now I want to talk about the top 10 games for August based on sales. And this, of course, this is, I don't really know. I believe it is physical sales. I don't know if they have started to consider counting digital. With some publishers, they do. So, but we'll see. But yeah, the top 10 games for August are: number 10 was Overwatch, Gary's favorite game. Number 9 was Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. Number 8, Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered. Number 7, Mario Kart 8. Number 6, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. Number 5, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Number 4, Splatoon 2. Number 3, Uncharted The Lost Legacy. Number 2, Grand Theft Auto 5. Yeah, big shocker. And number 1, Madden NFL 18. So I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on if you are surprised with any games that were on that list, as well as, you know, if you think that there's anything else that should have been on there that wasn't on there.
I mean, yeah, it seems, you know, seems pretty accurate, I guess. I mean, I am surprised to see Rainbow Six on there, you know, so high. But yeah, I mean, I expected Agents of Mayhem to be further up as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it seems pretty standard to me for this time of year. Of course, Madden's going to top the list. And I say this every time, but I'm still surprised that, you know, GTA is still so high up. But I guess that's just going to be a thing that happens, you know, moving forward. But yeah, I'm surprised that Modern Warfare Remastered shot back up as well. But yeah.
That'll change eventually when Call of Duty comes out in November. I mean, again, for me, the MPDs here now aren't too surprising. You're starting to see more Switch games start to appear on there, especially as the big ones start to come out. Pretty sure eventually we're going to see Mario Odyssey on there at one point. Again, as more Switches become available and people are buying the console and they're able to, you know, purchase games like that. So it's cool. It's fine with me.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you know, as we did have Urban Gamer in the chat mention that Madden is still the moneymaker. 100% agree with that. And I knew that Madden was going to be number 1.
It's football season coming up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's probably why.
Yeah, for football season going, yeah, games going on right now. So that's not a surprise. Grand Theft Auto 5, obviously, you know, Rockstar keeps doing an excellent job supporting the game with GTA Online. So that's I'll be very curious to see what it's going to be like when Red Dead Redemption comes out, and whether or not GTA will still be on this list. You know, it may still be on the list. Maybe it'll drop down out of the top 10. But I'm very curious to see what that's all about. I'm glad that Uncharted: The Lost Legacy was number 3, because I was hoping it was going to be high on the list. So I'm glad it was where it's at right now. That's fantastic. The game is great. As I said in my review, it definitely proves that you don't need Nathan Drake to have a good Uncharted game. So I think Naughty Dog should be commended on that game. And if you still haven't played it, you definitely need to make time to play it when possible. And just as Mr. Lugo mentioned with a lot of the Nintendo titles, yeah, Mario Kart 8, good to see that on the list. Splatoon 2, good to see that on the list. And of course, Legend of Zelda still on there, which I am surprised, because that game came out back in March. So I'm glad that these games are still doing well. It's great to see overall. One last thing I will say, as Gary mentioned with Agents of Mayhem, that was number 16 on the list. Was surprised that it wasn't higher. But I guess because this isn't a Saints Row game, I mean, it takes place in the same universe, but it's not a Saints Row game. So a lot of people don't really know what the game is. They don't really, I mean, this is a new IP, and people don't really know or care about it as much as they want to, or maybe they should. So therefore, it didn't really do as well on this list. The game does have some issues, so I can understand why it wasn't higher. And I think it where it's at, it's fine for me. But definitely interesting that it wasn't higher on the list. But yeah, overall, a great time for software. I think September NPDs. Obviously, we know Destiny 2 had massive sales, because there was a story that came out about that about 2 days ago. So I expect that to be the top-selling game next month. If not, it may be Madden again. NBA is also going to be on the list, because that's a game a lot of people always pick up. And you see when you look at this list right now, NBA 2K17 was still on this list at number 19. So 2K18 will be on the list next month, no doubt about that. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what other games will be on the September list. We'll just have to stay tuned for that information. But that's pretty much it on NPDs, unless you guys have anything else you wanted to say.
No, nothing from me.
No, not really.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and now let's talk about the main topic for this week. As I said earlier, there wasn't really too many news stories, because I don't know, for whatever reason, news is a little bit dead right now. But this, to me, is a big topic to discuss, because I was very surprised when I saw this. Obviously, Nintendo had their Nintendo Direct this past week, and they revealed more information about games coming to the Nintendo 3DS as well as the Switch. And a few things that I saw that stood out in that presentation. Obviously, Bethesda, they are going to be sending a lot of their games to the Switch. We know that Doom is coming out this holiday season for Switch. And Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, is coming out in 2018. In addition to that, we also found out more information about Super Mario Odyssey, which looks like one of the best. That is going to be, without a doubt, the major game this holiday season for Nintendo. And I would say I'll be very curious to see which other games are going to draw as much attention as that, because I don't think it will be that many, but I don't know yet. But we got more details on that. We also saw this other game that Square Enix is working on that's coming exclusively to the Switch. So with that said, we wanted to have a discussion today about, does it look as though Nintendo is starting to get over with the third-party support once again, starting to have more success with it? I have some thoughts on this, but before I say my thoughts, Mr. Lugo, how about you share your thoughts on a lot of the Nintendo Direct, and specifically the third-party titles now coming to the Switch?
It was a decent Nintendo Direct. I mean, it didn't have a lot of crazy news for first party stuff. There were some interesting surprises there. A lot of people were hoping and they were almost expecting for Smash Brothers to be announced, and we didn't get that. And it's fine. I don't think it makes it a bad Direct whatsoever. I think it is a very big deal that Doom and Wolfenstein are coming to the Switch as far as third party games are concerned. It's funny enough, I was talking about this with someone not too long ago. About a week and change ago, I actually wrote a feature for Switch Player Magazine saying for Doom to be one of the games to come to the Switch. So I was like, you know what? I called it. Like, it was pretty crazy, luckily for me for the timing of that. But I like that it's coming now. Don't get me wrong. The first thing that pops up to mind, besides, obviously the same stuff going on with Skyrim, that visually it's not going to be as, good looking compared to the other consoles, especially the PC version on the Switch. But it does tell you something about getting those types of games on the Nintendo Switch and be able to play them on the go. Because that means that if those work out well, especially if they sell well, this will show other third-party developers that their type of experiences can be done on the Nintendo Switch and can be done even if you have to kind of cut corners here and there. I mean, getting Wolfenstein, which is a brand new freaking game coming out next year, around the same time as it's going to be on other consoles on the Nintendo Switch, that's a big deal. That shows that Bethesda has some good amount of confidence in the Nintendo Switch. It'd be interesting to see if those do well, right? Does EA go a little bit more all in? Because remember, they have other games. They have like their FIFA game and they have other stuff going on with it. And the same thing with 2K. But then what about getting a Star Wars Battlefront? Or what about getting any of the other big 2K experiences on the go on the Nintendo Switch? What if there's another Borderlands that's announced at some point and we start getting that? You know what I mean? Like there's things that if these work out well, especially if they work out very well, granted a few things here and there, that could lead into other bigger things for third parties. Again, and Rockstar, again, LA Noire on the Switch is a big deal. Even though it's an older game like that, it's still a Rockstar game coming to the Nintendo Switch. What if Red Dead Redemption 2 is able to be brought to the Switch? What if, the next GTA or other GTA spin-off games or GTAs get ported over to the Nintendo Switch? That's a full GTA game or full-fledged Rockstar game on the go with you, besides being able to play it at home. That's a pretty cool, that's a pretty cool deal if you think about it. Now, the first party stuff, I will say again, getting more details about Super Mario Odyssey, getting more details about Fire Emblem Warriors and everything else that's coming to the Switch and the Nintendo 3DS. That was cool for the Nintendo Direct. I think it was a good deal for as far as all the different news that we got there. I'm hoping that TGS, since it's coming up now, even though Nintendo doesn't really have a huge presence at TGS, we start to get some more info about other stuff happening with the Japanese side of stuff, for Nintendo, and that'll hopefully lead to other territories as well. But I think that maybe next year after the holidays is when we start to get more of the bigger, crazier, more big surprises for the Nintendo Switch or just Nintendo games in general leading into E3 next year. I mean, obviously, I don't think we're going to get any more details of like a Metroid Prime 4 or anything of the sort like that anytime soon. But again, as of right now, Nintendo Switch is looking good. It's starting to pick up a lot more steam than what it had when it first launched out. And the same thing also we should mention, there were some other details that came out about the Nintendo Switch online, online app, as well as also the online capabilities for, for playing games like Splatoon 2 or anything else that you're going to play on the Nintendo Switch. I'd be very curious to see if Doom still has the multiplayer on Nintendo Switch, because I know it's not going to have the level editor that was in the previous versions of the game. It'd be very interesting to see like how that works out, especially on the Nintendo ecosystem with online play and such. But either way, those are my thoughts on the matter.
That's a good point. I didn't hear anything about this online stuff, so I'm curious to see whether or not that actually is going to come out as well. We'll see. Gary, did you have any thoughts on what's going on with Nintendo and the third parties?
Yeah. So, the Switch topped the MPDs for hardware, so it shows that the system is in demand. And I think a lot of publishers are starting to see that. And, numbers talk all the time when it comes to business. So I think a lot of publishers are starting to say, okay, the numbers are here on the Switch now. So maybe we should start putting some of our software titles on the Switch. And that's a great thing because, the Switch, or well, Nintendo products in general, they have this stigma attached to them where, people are expecting, more family friendly games and stuff. And they're not really used to seeing, more mature games and games that are a bit more extreme and have violence and, all that sort of thing. Of course, there have been those types of games on the systems before, but like, you know, it's not as much as on, you know, PlayStation and Xbox and PC. So I think now that we're starting to see games like Doom and Wolfenstein being included on the Switch, I think that, you know, that opens the door for a lot of other, you know, games to come out for the system. And I think if these games do well in terms of sales, you know, also LA Noire as well, if all these games do well in terms of the sales on the Switch, I think we'll get to a point where a lot of new games are starting to appear on the Switch from third parties. So you won't have to wait for the Switch version. It will come out the same day as everything else, you know, like for the PlayStation and the Xbox version. And once we see that, I think that's when Switch is going to be in a real sweet spot, because it will show that, you know, they do have support from the third-party publishers moving forward. And if they're able to maintain the level of sales that they're getting now, I think we're going to see Nintendo be dominant again in, you know, in the gaming industry. It might even get to the level of the Wii at some point, because we know Pokemon is coming too for the Switch, and other big titles, you know, Mario Odyssey, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more down the line, Metroid as well. So yeah, I think we could potentially be seeing the level of hype that the Wii had for the Switch, you know, if this continues. So I think Nintendo are in a really good spot right now. And this was unexpected as well. Like, I think a lot of people doubted the Switch, and I was one of them as well. I wanted the Switch to do well, but I was doubting it based on what happened with the Wii U. Because, you know, with the Wii U, they was trying to get third-party support in the beginning, but it didn't work out for them. And that hurt the platform significantly. So, you know, now that they're actually, you know, getting a good number of sales for the Switch, and third-party publishers are starting to support them more and more, I think we're in for a treat when in terms of, you know, Nintendo moving forward. So, yeah.
No, absolutely. So let me just start off by saying that, yeah, I also did doubt the Switch initially when it first came out, because I looked at the launch lineup and I was like, okay, so Zelda's a big game. You know, I'm not saying that it's not a big game, but I had said before, you know, when I saw Mario Odyssey for the first time, I said, you know, if that was a launch game for Switch, that to me, I think would have been the better direction to go in, or to releasing it close to then. But I said that before I actually saw all the other stuff that was coming, and then we went to E3. They had that E3 Direct that I thought was fantastic. You know, obviously, some people were very skeptical because they saw Metroid, said it was in development. We didn't see any gameplay footage. And then with Pokemon, they said it's coming, but of course, there was nothing to show at that time. But still, they showed a lot more games. You know, of course, the Fire Emblem Warriors game, which is coming out next month. You have Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which they also showed, which is coming out later this year. I think it's coming out in December. And then you have Mario. So all of that stuff was information that we learned about at E3. And then, of course, we saw a little bit more information at this particular show. I do agree with JJ. It wasn't a massive show. I wasn't expecting it to be like a lot of major reveals, but still, the Wolfenstein stuff is a big deal. I tried to emphasize that to people. It's a big deal. You know, when we heard about LA Noire coming to Switch, we was like, well, that's very interesting. You know, the game is really, really old, but that's still interesting that it is even coming there. But I think now, knowing that Wolfenstein is coming, and Doom, you know, granted that Wolfenstein is coming to consoles in October, and then Switch, it's not coming till 2018. You know, they didn't provide any date as of yet, but just to know that it's coming to the devices is excellent. I agree with Gary that if it gets to a day where all this stuff launches at the same time on console, that'll be fantastic. I know that NBA 2K18 is on Switch now, but I don't really know what the difference is between that version and the actual version on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. But I will say again that it's just great to see the Switch has so many things that are working well for it now. And then in 2018, like I said, we don't really know obviously, we don't really know if that Pokemon game is coming out next year. I know they said that the goal was to release it next year. I don't know if that's going to happen.
No, that ain't happening. That's not happening. That's not coming for a long time. Let's
I don't
be
actually.
real.
What? Go ahead, Gary. What do you say?
I don't think they said they're planning to release it next year. I think they said we're going to hear about it or hear
No,
more
they said
about it.
they're working on it. That's the difference. They're working
Okay.
on it. So we could not hear about that for like all of next year. And I think that'll be fine because not only do we have big games now, we have big games coming over the horizon that they said they're working on already. At this point, I mean, at least we got a logo for a game that's already in development besides us being told by one of the heads of the Pokemon company that they're working on something. So I don't think it really matters at this point if they don't say anything about it. Talk to us and tell us something when you have something to show. That I think is the better mindset with everything.
Absolutely. So that's to be determined. We do know that, well, supposedly, Travis Strikes Again will be out sometime next year. I don't know if that may change also because it is in heavy development right now. But the point is that there are a lot of games that are coming to the device. To know that Square Enix is working on a game that is exclusive to the Switch also is a big deal. I don't know if it's a game that I will be into. I know that there's a demo out there now that, I will have to try at some point. But just to know that it is picking up some third-party support is great. Obviously, with Bethesda, we do have to mention this, though. With Bethesda, we're going to have to see how these games perform on the system. I think that is what a lot of people are going to wait to see, how these games actually perform, meaning the actual performance and what is the differences between the Switch version and the console version, because that will tell you whether or not this is something that can actually work out. Because I mean, when I heard Wolfenstein, I was floored with that announcement. I mean, I thought it was great for Switch owners, but I still am skeptical how this is going to work. So obviously we'll need to see how it's going to work, but just to know that it's getting third-party support is great. Definitely way, way better than the Wii U. Because in Wii U, I don't recall that getting hardly any third-party support. So this system is already off to a much better start than that. So I'm happy for Nintendo. And I'm very curious to see what's going to happen. One other quick question I did want to ask, though. Since we are talking about third parties and the fact that, Nintendo, we know that they have some third-party games that are some third-party exclusives on coming to the Switch. We also know that there are some third-party games that you can also say are on PlayStation 4. I wanted to ask the question, do any of you guys know what is going on with Microsoft's third-party titles? If those titles are even in existence, because I know of the first-party studios, but I haven't heard anything about any third-party titles that may be coming specifically to Xbox One. So I just wanted to ask if you guys had any thoughts on what's going on with Microsoft in that situation.
Well, we know about stuff from E3 from the games that they showed, both first party and third party stuff. But even then, like, again, I just don't think there's really much to talk about now at this point. Who knows? Maybe after all the events, after this year, as we lead into next year, maybe we'll start to hear more, especially as we get closer to next year's E3. But who knows at this point? Right now, there isn't a whole lot to really talk about big stuff happening with Xbox One other than the X. Other than that, and again, like games like Anthem that are over the horizon. So, and that's not even third party. No, that is third party, correct? Right? That's not exclusive. That's not first party. That's an exclusive, but it's done by what is it? It's done by BioWare, right? Anthem.
Yeah, that's coming to everything.
That's coming to everything. So yeah, it's like again, there's really not much to talk about right now with them, but I think eventually it will be. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm very curious because I'm not trying to, and I just want to clarify, I'm not trying to bash Microsoft, but when I see that you have games like Yakuza, this is only on PlayStation 4. You have this other game the Square Enix announced, it's only coming to Switch. So I want to know what is Microsoft's future for the plan in terms of trying to get those types of titles on their system, not the same games. I'm talking about specific games for that system. So that's why I asked that question, but I'm not really throwing any shade at Microsoft. The X is going to do well. I still may end up getting an X. I don't know if I'm going to get it at launch, but I just wanted to ask that question because I haven't really, when I look through a list of the titles they have, I didn't really see anything third party, just the first party support. So So Gary, what was you going to say on this matter?
Well, I mean, of course, unfortunately for Microsoft, they are probably considered, to be in last place by a lot of people at this point. So yeah, I guess it's a priority thing where publishers are now going to prioritize PS4 and the Switch because, those are like currently the two platforms that are battling for the top spot, I guess. And we kind of have to wait and see what the Xbox One X does. Obviously it's not out yet, so it could change a lot. If the X suddenly comes out and it sells a lot, like that could put Microsoft back in the game, and we might start to see, more exclusives being announced for, the Xbox, and more third party, launch exclusives or whatever they want to call it. We could start to see a lot more of that happen for the Xbox One X, but it's at this point it's just a waiting game. But yeah, things are looking a bit bleak right now, but things were also looking bleak for Nintendo, before the Switch came out. So who knows what's going to happen. It's hard to fully predict what will happen and what the future holds. Microsoft does have a chance to turn things around, so I'm not going to count them out completely at this point, but yeah, at the moment, I think they're just kind of, they're in that last spot. So they're not going to get as much love from the publishers moving forward until that changes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes perfect sense. Like you said, it can change. We'll obviously see what happens down the horizon. But yeah, I mean, overall, I'm just glad that Nintendo is doing well with third-party support. I know some people will look at, some people maybe think that the Wolfenstein stuff wasn't a big deal. To me, it is a big deal. I'm a Wolfenstein fan, but obviously, everyone has their own opinions. But very curious to see what happens with Nintendo. But I'm happy for them that they're doing well. They have all these titles that are coming. So definitely looking forward to checking out what happens with them, as well as Sony and Microsoft moving forward. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I had to say on the matter. Did you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap up the show?
I'm all
Okay, Gary.
Yeah, I'm all good.
All right, so
there was one thing I wanted to draw attention to, but it's a separate topic. So was you going to say anything more?
Oh no, go ahead. Let's hear what this topic is.
Yeah, so real quick, I mean, there's not too much we can really talk about with this topic. It's just something I wanted to highlight in case people missed it. But the co-director for Last of Us and Uncharted 4 has left Naughty Dog, and we've been seeing a lot of peculiar things happen with Naughty Dog. Like people have been leaving, changing to different companies and stuff like that. And supposedly, Uncharted 4 was there was a lot of behind the scenes, I guess, tension and frustration with the development of that game. So I just hope that everything is good within Naughty Dog, and I hope that this won't affect Last of Us 2 or any other games they have planned for the future. But we've seen a lot of talent leave the company. And I'm just wondering, what effect that will have. But you guys got any thoughts on that?
I do have something to say real quick, and then I'll let Mr. Lugo say something if he wants to. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I did see the story about, Jason Schreier's book came out talking about Uncharted, mentioning, alluding to what could have happened with the Amy Hennig situation. And the fact that she did not comment on it, but they basically were saying that she had a different vision for the game, which I mean, I don't know if there's anyone that still hasn't played Uncharted 4, so I don't want to spoil any details, but if you haven't played Uncharted 4 yet, I'll be very surprised. But she just had a different way of how she viewed Nathan Drake's brother in the game, and that was going to be totally different from what they had, so they obviously wanted to change all that information up. So yeah, I mean, I mean, personally, in my opinion, I thought Uncharted 4 I thought it was a good game, but if you was to ask me which Uncharted I enjoyed the most, it hands down Uncharted 2. I enjoyed the most. But that's just my opinion. But going back to what you was asking about what's going on with The Last of Us 2, I know that Bruce Straley has been with the company for almost 20 years. He did say that he is going to have more to talk about in the future. He doesn't have any immediate plans now, but obviously if he is going to work somewhere else, he is going to make an announcement about that later. I'm curious to see where he goes from here, because I have no idea where he could go. But does this make me concerned about The Last of Us Part 2? I don't think so, because you know, we know for the most part that his other partner on this game, Neil Druckmann, I mean, he is the one that came up with this story idea for the second game. So, and I know with the first game, that also was a bit of a personal story for him also. So I feel as though he'll be the one to lead the charge on the game. I don't really think it's going to result in the game being bad or anything like that. But I also do believe that the game is nowhere near close to coming out. You know, I believe that they have really only just started to do some stuff for the game. So I don't expect to see this game until maybe 2020 at the earliest. I could be wrong. Maybe it'll come before then. Who knows? But honestly, I think his departure, I don't think it's going to impact anything that they have going on now. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. I personally thought that the decision to go back to having Joel and Ellie and Ellie, I thought that already was something where I was surprised they went in that direction, because I didn't know what other things they were going to tell beyond that. So I'm curious, but I don't think we have to worry about that game. It should be great when it comes out, and everything should be unaffected, in my opinion. But Mr. Google, do you have any quick thoughts on this topic also?
I don't really think there's much to say at all. I mean, other than, because I haven't read the stuff in Jason's book. I actually have to do so at some point. But it doesn't seem like it was really like a bad separation or anything that was like really terrible or whatnot whatsoever. So until like somebody else says something that could be alluding to whatever happened over there, whether it was with Amy or anybody else over at the studio, I think it's fine. I mean, there's really not much to really dive into.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, hey, this as I said, Last of Us Part 2, it ain't coming out no time soon. But we'll see how it turns out. But I have confidence.
It'd be very cool if we go to PSX this year and we get more details about it. I will say that about Last of Us Part 2. That'd be very awesome.
Oh yeah. Well, we probably will get more details since it wasn't at E3, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Gary, because I completely forgot about that. I wasn't thinking about that particular story, but yeah, that was something that people were talking about this week. So good job. But
no problem.
And so any final thoughts before we get ready to wrap up the show?
That's it from me.
Okay, so we thank you all for checking out this week's show. Please feel free to leave your comments in the comment section. If you enjoyed any of the topics that we talked about, if you have any thoughts on what we said, we definitely want to hear from you guys. Also want to let you know, if you have not done so already, we are doing a giveaway for a new game for October. And I believe that right now on the website, there is a post up that it's still going on for at least a couple more days into next week. So you have time to vote if you haven't voted already. But I can tell you right now that based on the current votes, it looks like South Park, The Fractured But Whole, right now has the most votes. Obviously, the games that you have a chance to win, South Park, Assassin's Creed Origins, Wolfenstein 2, The Evil Within 2, Super Mario Odyssey, and Middle-earth: Shadow of War. So for all you fans that are Mario fans, y'all need to hurry up and get to the site and vote immediately, because I thought Mario would be the top game that will be drawing the most attention. But hey, we'll see what happens. I mean, you guys still do have until Friday this week to finalize your votes. But we will leave a link in this video and, of course, on the site so you guys know exactly where to vote. But thank you for all the continued support. And final shout-outs, Mr. JJ, do you have any final shout-outs?
Yeah, just shout out to everybody that's been reading the reviews, that have been leaving comments on all our stuff, everybody in the chat. We really appreciate you guys, as well as also all our patrons. Thank you a ton for your patronage, for your guys' support. It's always appreciative. Thanks to everybody else that's been, again, hitting us up on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all over the place. We really appreciate that, guys. We love interacting with all of you, especially when we post up new content. We got some good surprises coming very soon. I know today, again, I'm working all day on my Destiny 2 review, which should hopefully be up tomorrow. Again, a lot of stuff to cover with it. It's been an ordeal to get through a lot of the stuff in this game, or at least being able to comment on everything to really look at it as a complete package. So look for that very soon. We also have some other content hopefully coming this week, because I got a few surprises in store for you guys, especially if you've been liking the unboxing videos and other stuff that we've been posting up, both on the YouTube channel and on the website. So definitely look out for those very, very soon. But thanks a ton, everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I also would like to give thanks to the Patreon supporters, as well as everyone else who has been supporting us. We appreciate all the continued support. Just to piggyback off of what Mr. Lugo said, yes, there is a lot of other content coming. I'm actually working on several things at the moment. We'll see a few things tomorrow by the time this episode goes up on the site. So stay tuned for that. Obviously, Shadow of War, I have a preview coming for that. There's another game I have a preview coming for. I can't really talk about because it's under embargo, but you can look for that also this week. But that's pretty much it from me. Again, thank you for the continued support. And Gary, the floor is yours.
Yep. So, of course, as always, shouts to all of our Patreon supporters: M. Collins, Sean Gority, Stephen Ferron, Mauricio Aguilar, Himdil, Fergus Mills, Lelowin Leslie, Nicholas Alvarez, Miguel, and Mark. We appreciate all of your support. And of course, whenever the giveaway does go live, you guys are going to have, immediate entries, into the contest to win the game. So yeah, make sure you guys cast your votes on the post that's on the site now. And, so let us know which game you want to see us give away in October. And shouts to everyone who joined us in the chat today. I saw Mark in there, Black Star, shouts to the Analog Circle as well. Those guys have a podcast as well, so make sure you check that out. And yeah, everyone else who interacted with us in the chat today, and held the discussion down and everything, shouts to you guys. And also Tony was in there too. So make sure you guys go listen to the Throwdown, and Throwdown Your Questions is on, later this evening if you're in America. So yeah, definitely check that out. And that's pretty much it from me.
Awesome. Thanks once again. We will talk to you all next week.